and gentlemen, let me tell you something that changed my life the moment I understood it. When you value yourself, you only attract what aligns with that value. See, the problem with many of us is we walk around waiting for somebody else to validate who we are. But the truth is, the way people treat you is directly connected to how you treat yourself. You can't expect royalty treatment when you act like a doormat in your own life. You teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. That simple truth right there is something that can completely transform the way you experience life, relationships, work, and even how you see yourself. Most people walk around wondering why they're always being overlooked, disrespected, or undervalued. But the answer isn't always in the other person's actions. It's in your own reflection. The way you carry yourself, the boundaries you set, and the standards you hold in your everyday life silently send a message to the world about how you expect to be treated. If you allow people to walk all over you, speak down to you, or take advantage of you without standing up for yourself, you're sending a clear message that it's okay. People will always push as far as they're allowed to. That's just human nature. But when you begin to treat yourself like you matter, when you make decisions that honor your time, your energy, your heart, and your peace, others are forced to rise to that level or walk away. It all starts with the way you see yourself in private. If you constantly talk negatively to yourself, criticize every move you make, or tell yourself you're not enough, you're building a foundation of self-worth that is shaky and unstable. And when people come into your life, they'll reflect that energy right back to you. They'll sense you don't respect yourself, and they'll respond accordingly through manipulation, disrespect, or neglect. But if you shift that inner dialogue to one that's affirming, loving, and honest, you'll slowly start to build a self-image that demands better. You'll begin to expect more, not just from other people, but from life itself. And when you hold yourself to a higher standard, you stop accepting anything less than what you truly deserve. It's not just about what you say, it's also in your actions. When you prioritize your mental health, your goals, your self-care, and your growth, you're showing the world that you are valuable. When you walk away from toxic environments, refuse to engage in drama, and choose peace over chaos, you're telling people that your well-being comes first. That kind of energy doesn't go unnoticed. People may not say it out loud, but they feel it. They know they can't just treat you any type of way. They realize that you're not someone who will stay where you're not appreciated. And that realization either makes people step up or step out. Sometimes we think being kind means tolerating everything, but being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. Real kindness starts with how you treat yourself. You can't pour love into others when you're running on empty. You can't keep giving chances to people who show you time and again that they don't value you. Eventually, you've got to decide that your peace is more important than pleasing people. You've got to understand that love without respect isn't real love. And once you make that shift, you'll start to notice a difference in the way people talk to you, show up for you, and include you. When you show up in the world with self-respect, confidence, and peace, people either match that energy or remove themselves from your life. And both outcomes are win. Because when you treat yourself with value, you stop entertaining relationships and environments that drain you. You begin to walk in rooms knowing you belong there. You begin to speak with clarity and power. You begin to make decisions based on your worth, not your wound. You teach your children, your friends, your coworkers, even strangers how to approach. You stop shrinking. You stop apologizing for who you are. You walk in alignment with your purpose. You teach people that if they want to be in your life, they must bring respect, honesty, and value, because that's exactly what you bring to yourself. When you value yourself, your circle changes. Fewer people, but more genuine ones. Life has a funny way of rearranging itself the moment you start treating yourself with the respect and worth you've always deserved. People often fear loneliness, but what they don't understand is that the real danger lies in being surrounded by people who don't truly see your value. When you begin to see your own worth, something powerful happens. You start to filter out everything and everyone that no longer aligns with that higher version of you. Suddenly, you no longer find comfort in shallow conversations, temporary friendships, or people who only love the convenient parts of you. Instead, you crave depth, truth, and connection that speaks to your soul. You begin to lose tolerance for people who drain your energy, belittle your dreams, or show up only when it's beneficial for them. This process isn't always pretty. In fact, at first, it can feel like you're losing everyone. People you used to laugh with, spend time with, or confide in may slowly begin to distance themselves. Some relationships might even fall apart without a single argument. That's because when your standards rise, some people won't be able to reach you anymore. Not because you're better than them, but because you're no longer willing to lower yourself to places that don't serve your growth. When you begin to value your peace, your time, your energy, you stop saying yes just to keep the peace. You stop showing up for people who wouldn't even notice if you didn't. You start protecting your space like it's sacred, because it is. There's a major difference between being alone and being in alignment. Being alone while knowing your worth feels a whole lot better than being surrounded by people who make you feel lonely in their presence. You start realizing that it's better to have 2 or 3 people in your corner who genuinely love and support you than to have a crowd full of people who only show up for the good times. You begin to attract those who resonate with your energy, your growth, and your heart. These are the ones who celebrate your wins, sit with you in your losses, and hold space for the real you, flaws and all. These are the people who don't feel threatened by your light, but inspired by it. And the beautiful part is, you no longer have to chase these connections. They come naturally when you've done the work to understand your own value. As you evolve, so does your circle. You stop needing validation from people who can't see past your past. You no longer seek approval from people who are uncomfortable with your success. You become okay with saying no, even if it disappoints someone. You become okay with silence, because silence is better than noise that leads nowhere. You learn to listen to your intuition, to honor your boundaries, and to protect your energy. That's when your circle starts reflecting your growth. Fewer people, yes, but every one of them will feel like a blessing. The truth is, not everyone is meant to walk with you forever. Some people are seasonal. And their time in your life was just that, a time, not a lifetime. But when you start valuing yourself, you begin to recognize who is genuine and who is just convenient. You no longer hold on to people out of guilt or history. You let go with grace, knowing that your future is too important to be cluttered with connections that keep you stuck. You become more intentional with your time, your love, your loyalty. You no longer waste energy trying to convince people of your worth. You simply live in a way that reflects it, and those meant for you will never need convincing. Self-worth attracts respect, opportunities, and love that match your energy. The moment you begin to truly understand your own value is the moment everything around you starts to shift. People can feel energy that comes from self-respect. It doesn't have to be loud or flashy. It just needs to be authentic. When you walk into a room knowing who you are, not in arrogance, but in quiet confidence, people notice. They treat you differently, they speak to you differently, and they respond to you with a different level of seriousness. That's not a coincidence. It's alignment. The way you carry yourself sets the tone for the way the world responds to you. You don't have to demand respect when you walk in it every day. You don't have to beg for opportunities when you become the kind of person who's ready to receive them. It all begins with the belief that you are worthy of good things, of love, of respect, of success. Not because of what you do for others, but because of who you are. Once you understand that, you stop settling. You stop applying for jobs that undervalue your skills. You stop staying in relationships that hurt more than they heal. You stop entertaining conversations that leave you drained. You don't have to announce this change to the world. You just start choosing better, and everything that isn't in alignment with your self-worth starts to naturally fall away. Opportunities don't just come to the most talented or the most educated. They come to those who believe they are capable. The people who show up prepared, who speak with clarity, who walk with purpose, those are the ones who doors open for. When you value yourself, you start saying yes to things that scare you because you know you deserve growth. You stop talking yourself out of your own potential. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. Instead, you rise. You speak with vision. You take risks. And the universe responds to that kind of energy. Love, too, shifts when your self-worth rises. You no longer fall for potential. You no longer confuse attention with affection. You stop needing constant reassurance because you've already given yourself the love you used to beg for. You attract partners who recognize your strength, who match your effort, and who don't see your boundaries as a threat, but as a sign of emotional maturity. You no longer accept bare minimum. You no longer chase people who don't see your value. Love becomes mutual. Respect becomes mutual. You start building relationships from a place of wholeness, not desperation. Self-worth also protects you. It helps you say no without guilt. It helps you walk away when you're not being treated right. It helps you wait for the right timing instead of settling out of fear. It keeps you grounded when the world gets loud. And that kind of inner stability is magnetic. People are drawn to those who don't need external validation. People are drawn to peace. And when you carry that peace inside you, you become the kind of person others want to follow, trust, and invest in. There's something powerful about knowing your worth. It silences doubt. It clears confusion. It allows you to focus on what truly matters. You stop wasting energy on things that don't grow you. You start surrounding yourself with people who remind you of your greatness, not your weaknesses. And even when challenges come, you face more resilience because you know your value is not shaken by temporary setbacks. Your self-worth becomes the compass that guides your decisions, your relationships, your dreams. It becomes the standard for what you accept and what you no longer allow. It becomes the light that attracts exactly what belongs in your life. Stop begging to be chosen. Instead, become so valuable you can't be ignored. There's a major shift in life when you stop waiting around for someone to see your worth and start focusing on becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to convince anyone of it. Begging to be chosen, whether in relationships, friendships, work, or any area of life, comes from a place of scarcity, from the fear that you're not enough on your own. But when you operate from that space, you attract people who think they're doing you a favor by simply giving you their attention. You begin to lower your standards just to feel seen. And that's when you start accepting crumbs instead of holding out for what you truly deserve. The truth is, people respect what they don't have easy access to. When you're constantly proving yourself, explaining yourself, and chasing validation, you actually lower your own value in the eyes of others. It doesn't matter how talented you are, how kind you are, or how much you give. If you're handing yourself over too easy to people who don't value you, you're teaching them that you don't value yourself. But the moment you stop seeking approval and start building yourself from the inside out, everything begins to shift. You move from being someone who needs to be chosen to someone who is already complete. And that energy, that mindset is impossible to ignore. Becoming valuable doesn't mean changing who you are to fit someone else's idea of success or beauty or worth. It means becoming deeply rooted in your purpose, your growth, your character. It means getting so focused on your own journey that you no longer have time to wonder who likes you or who approves of you. It means investing in your skills, protecting your peace, and walking in alignment with your principles. You work in silence, improve in private, and let your progress speak for itself. That's the type of value that draws the right people and repels the wrong ones. When you become valuable, opportunities start to seek you out. People begin to notice your consistency, your strength, your vision. You're no longer overlooked because you become undeniable. There's no need to compete or compare because you've created your own lane. That's the power of not begging to be chosen. You stop showing up in spaces where you're tolerated and start creating spaces where you're celebrated. You learn to say no to offers that don't align with your worth, even if they're tempting in the moment. You understand that what's meant for you will find you when you've done the work to become ready for it. There's a confidence that comes from knowing you don't need to beg for a seat at any table. You either get invited with honor or you build your own table. You no longer fear rejection because you've realized that rejection doesn't define your value. It simply redirects you toward something better, something that matches the version of you that you've been building. You stop wasting energy convincing others and start pouring that energy into becoming so good, so consistent, so whole that you're no longer an option. They either meet you at your level or get left behind. The most powerful people don't chase, they attract. And attraction is the natural result of becoming valuable. When you become valuable, you stop needing permission to take up space. You stop needing applause to keep going. You're fueled by purpose, not praise. You know what you bring to the table, and you're not afraid to sit alone until the right people come along. That's when real alignment happens. That's when real love, real opportunities, real friendships start flowing into your life, not because you begged to be seen, but because you became impossible to overlook. The way you talk to yourself sets the tone for your whole life. Every single day there's a voice inside your head narrating your story, shaping your beliefs, and building the foundation of your self-worth. That voice, your self-talk, can either be your greatest enemy or your strongest ally. Most people go through life without realizing how powerful that inner dialogue really is. They speak to themselves with doubt, criticism, and fear, then wonder why their confidence is missing, why their motivation fades, or why they feel stuck. It's not always the world holding them back. It's often the words they whisper to themselves when no one else is around. When your inner voice is filled with negativity, it becomes impossible to build a life rooted in peace, growth, or confidence. You can't expect to flourish when you constantly tearing yourself down from the inside out. What you repeatedly say to yourself creates patterns, and those patterns become beliefs. If you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, eventually you start to behave in ways that reflect that belief. You'll sabotage opportunities, avoid taking risks, and settle for less than you deserve, not because you're incapable, but because you convince yourself that's all you're worth. On the flip side, if your self-talk is empowering, kind, and encouraging, you begin to walk through life with a sense of clarity and strength. You start to take chances, speak up for yourself, and push past limits, not because everything is perfect, but because you believe you're capable of handling whatever comes your way. Many people were never taught how to speak to themselves with love. They picked up negative inner narratives from childhood. toxic relationships, failures, or painful experiences. Those old tapes play in the background, repeating the same messages over and over. You're not enough. You'll never change. You always mess things up. But those words are not truth. They're echoes of the past. And unless you choose to replace them with new, truthful, empowering thoughts, they'll keep shaping your future without your permission. The only way to change your outer world is to first change the conversation with them. You have to become aware of what you're saying to yourself, especially in the quiet moments when no one else can hear. Positive self-talk doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending everything is okay when it's not. It means choosing to speak from a place of hope, truth, and possibility rather than fear and defeat. It means saying, this is hard, but I can handle it, instead of, this always happens to me. It means telling yourself, I'm learning, instead of, I always fail. Your words create your world. They either build you up or break you down. And the tone you use with yourself sets the tone for how others will treat you as well. When you talk to yourself with confidence and self-respect, you naturally start attracting people who treat you the same way. You start showing up differently in your career, in your relationships, in your goals, because your internal foundation is no longer weak or filled with doubt. The way you speak to yourself in the dark moments is especially important. It's easy to be positive when everything is going well, but the real test of self-love comes when things fall apart. That's when your inner voice becomes either a weapon or a shield. If you can learn to speak kindly to yourself during failure, rejection, heartbreak, and disappointment, you become unstoppable. You become someone who can weather any storm because your foundation is rooted in truth and compassion. That's the kind of strength that can't be taken away. And it all starts with the words you choose when you look in the mirror, when you face a challenge, when you make a mistake. Those words have power. They shape how you feel, how you act, and what you believe is possible. They are the seeds of your future, planted in the soil of your thoughts every single day. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's knowing you're worthy without needing approval. You no longer base your value on how others see you or whether they like you. You stop living for validation, and instead you live in alignment with who you really are. That's the power of knowing your worth. It liberates you from the constant pressure to perform for others.